If you've always wondered how they do those flying arm locks or how to transition from a standing position down to the mat to get an arm lock, stay tuned because I'm going to analyze how to do that. Hi, everybody. I'm Steve Scott, and thanks again for watching another episode of Freestyle Judo. Well, in today's show, I'm going to analyze and take apart and parse and really take a serious look at how to do transitions from standing to ground and get your partner in a Juji Gatame. Now, if you watch my show much, you know I love Juji Gatame. I think it's a very effective arm lock. It's one of many great submission techniques, but it just happens to be a favorite of mine. But in this particular show, we're going to look at the rather spectacular flying Juji Gatame or flying arm lock, as well as a little more well-grounded, I think, and I pardon my pun, but well-grounded term of getting him from the standing to the ground to apply a Juji Gatame. So we're going to show actually 5 videos in some depth about starting the basics of how to do a spin under, fake a tomoe-nage circle throw type thing, yoko tomoe-nage, side or spinning tomoe-nage, right into a Juji Gatame. And then we're going to take it from there. We're going to really, take it out a far direction. So I think you might really have a lot of fun with that, watching that. And I hope it helps you maybe add another tool to your arsenal. Another thing we're going to talk about later today is gi and no-gi training and the benefits of training no-gi to help your gi work. I'm a firm believer in cross-training, and that's a subject that I think is important. And a lot of people do no-gi training, and if you don't do it, it probably would be very helpful if you did. So we'll discuss that later in the show. But right now, let's get into Juji Gatame, a transition from standing to a ground situation. And it's an ideal situation, I must say, that to do this. It's very effective, and I've seen it work quite a few times with my athletes that I've trained personally, that I've done myself as well, but also I've seen on all levels of really good judo and sambo and sport jiu-jitsu, and maybe even, I don't know if I've ever seen it in MMA, but I know I've seen it in some no-gi situations as well. And in fact is, some of the videos we're going to be showing today are also done in no-gi situations, so you can really get a sense for how to do this, really tie up the body well. But nonetheless, this first video is going to be a little over 5 minutes, and it is so bear with us, it is the explanation of the basics of how to do a yoko tomoe-nage or side or spinning tomoe-nage and get your opponent directly into Juji Gatame. And what this is ideal for judo, because it really does look like a solid attack that you're trying Juji Gatame, and you may be. But you can also convert that quickly into a transition to roll him right over and get him on his back and stretch his arm with Juji Gatame. So we're going to be doing this in this first video. And like I said, it's a little over 5 minutes. And it was we made this video a few years ago at John Saylor's training camp in Shingitai training camp, Perrysville, Ohio. And we were doing a session on this particular thing. And Derek Darling and Mike Pennington were coaching it. So this first video is the basic application, the basics of doing the spin under yoko tomoe-nage to Juji Gatame. So here we go. This is an ideal situation to get a transition. This is a transition from taking him standing to the ground. You may throw him, great. And, if you're doing judo, sambo, the referee may give you points for it. But we're really looking to get him on the ground and stretch an arm. We like that Juji Gatame, so here we go. So you want to show it, Mike? And you guys team teach this. You guys go ahead and coach, and I'll help.
Anytime I get this arm trapped up high on my neck, I know there's an arm bar there. So I like to really collapse it.
See how he's in there, guys? So that you can see what he's doing with his hand. He goes from having a grip on the outside like we were doing before. If I put my elbow on his chest, he's like it's Christmas, and he just slides that arm over and he hugs the arm.
So from there, I'm just sliding around, and you can put your foot on the hip, you can put it on the rib cage, but you got to really have a deep step to go across and hit it. And then swing it. I like to really keep the neck because it's just an extra grip for me when I'm here. Keep it up tight. Cinch it to your body. Don't come and pull it down. Just keep it where it's at and posture your hips up.
Yeah, having the arm hug. At my club, we usually start everybody with the baseball bat grip, but somewhere halfway between yellow belt, I start harping on them about doing what we call the arm hug, which is getting your arms in this sort of position. I always want them to have the elbow in the sternum. If not, then you're feeling the forearm there. And you don't have to worry that way when you flip them over to collapse back this way. You're actually giving up control. You keep that there and then you just bring the other hand up. You can even, figure four it if you need to. If you want to be cool about it, you can do something like that. But you've already got the grip that you started with, so keep it, because this is the perfect juju position. So that's why Mike is saying don't, let go of that and come up here because you're actually giving up control.
Guys, let's tie that up. Now, let's show your angle. Angle of attack on this transition is really important. Notice how Mike steps outside to Derek's right. So he has room to put his right foot up in Derek's left hip or left hip area. Spin under and catch it. Remember the phrase, stay round. You've got to stay round. You can't do this in angles. So forget about, working. You've got to put your foot under and get as tight, and when I say tight in a good way, compact and round.
So the thing that Steve told me when he was first teaching this move, and it stuck with me ever since, is get your ear on the guy's shin or his ankle. You'll never get there. It's just like how I was telling some of you guys, try and sit down on your feet when you're doing the regular tomoe-nagi. You'll never sit on your heels, but you'll get darn close and that'll keep you round. It's the same idea. It keeps you round and it gets you close enough to that leg so that he flips over nice and tight. So if I'm already here, I cut that nice angle and then I swing my head in and I try and get this ear on his far shin or ankle. Okay? And then he just flops right over. Okay? It's very, very hard for him to base out and like try and squash me because I'm not going back. If I do this, boom, he's back down to my guard. Okay? We're not pulling guard here. We're doing half of the yoko tomoe-nagi and half of a flying armbar. And you end up with the armbar. Take a side, sit side. Okay?
The starting angle, we can't emphasize that, is important. You're not going to be straight. Do not stand straight in front of the guy. If you are, move to the side. Can you demo that, guys? When you guys, so if you are in a straight line with a guy, move. Just get yourself a position where you can take him down and spin under and catch it. You're not going to standing in front of him. He sees everything coming, and you're totally out of position. Okay, you've got to be under. And as he said, hug that arm. As you're moving to the side, that's when to trap and hug that arm. Let's show the leg over the head, guys, to finish it out. To trap the head. Look at that left leg, trap and go. Don't just stick it up there like a piece of meat. Got to hook it, trap them in. Point your toe, bend them. Literally like a nutcracker.
Yeah. Squish his head. For those of you who are worried about being too rough, it's not that bad, okay? By the time he thinks, oh, he's squishing my face, you're breaking his arm. So, potato, right? Okay, so really control the head. That keeps him coming down with you, and it also keeps him from being able to yank his arm out. Okay? So very, very important for no gi is leg control. So important that even with my gi guys, I still harp on them about it. So squeeze down with those two. All right?
It's just good. It's good body position, good manipulation of the body. It's good movement to leg control. All right, so that was the basics of it, and I think that's a good place to start right there. So there's some lead up things you have to do before you learn how to do this efficiently. In other words, don't just try to jump into it. And again, a bad pun, I'm sorry, but don't just jump into it right off. Develop good skill in your spinning tomoe-nagi, your spin under yoko tomoe-nagi. I think that's essential to start, so you get the grasp of how to tuck and roll, just like Derek showed you in the video. That's important to start with, okay? And of course, then have a good grasp of how to do Juji Gatame. So you can combine these two skills into a real seamless transition from standing to ground. And I know right there that Derek was teaching that he's used that a number of times in competition in actually judo, sambo, and submission grappling. So I've seen him do it with great success. So the next video, we're going to look at a variation of that. okay, you might not always put your foot, or you might miss your foot in putting it on his hip, on your opponent's hip. And sometimes you may not want to put your foot on the hip to get a quicker spin under. So you'll see what I mean. It's a shorty. It's a minute 40 seconds. And again, the guys are discussing how to do this Yoko Tomoe-nage to Juji Gatame transition by not putting your foot on the hip, just swinging under them. You'll see what I mean. So let's take a look at it right now. Now, with the right foot, you either put it in his hip or swing it across. I mean, it's a personal preference. A lot of guys, you know, it's whatever you like to do that works best for you. Can you emphasize that, guys?
So Mikey always does his more classic Yoko Tomoe-nage where he places the foot actually up in the hip. I kind of throw the back of my heel up there because it allows me to do it a little bit quicker. And I always had a very hard time staying round when I was first doing it. So that helps me kind of do both. So for the guys that don't feel they're bendy enough, this might work easier for you. So as we step to the side, all I'm going to do is I'm going to put that heel up there. Just try and catch the side of his hip where his belt might be with your heel. And what that allows you to do is just leave your leg there and then pendulum underneath. And it's a lot quicker.
See how he dove his right ear to Mike's left foot. Okay, now that's where he threw it. Now, Mike, could you demo where you put your foot in the hip? The guys, you both work. It's a personal preference thing. And play with both to see what you like. Opportunity may arise, you do one or the other. But know them both because they both really work well.
Yeah, you trust me, you never know which one's going to work for you. So try one. If it's not working, flip to the other.
Okay, we good? Everybody stay round, tuck up underneath them, roll them over, and you're coming right into a... Want to give it a try? Juji Gatame. Okay, so spinning Tomoe-nage to Juji Gatame. Now that style really does work. It really is effective. And some people say, like a judo, people say, "Oh, he's pulling guard." Well, no, he's not. It still looks like a Tomoe-nage, and that's like when I do referee. When I referee at the nationals for our freestyle and AAU judo nationals, I tell the guys, "Hey, fool me. I want to be fooled. Make it look like a really good Tomoe-nage, and you can roll them right into that juji." And I want to see that happen. So, yeah. Please fool me because it's not jumping into guard. You judo guys, don't worry. Again, it looks a lot like Tomoe-nage, doesn't it? And is that tactical application of how to do it? You bet. That's it's a competition, and it's a great way to get a guy down into Juji Gatame. So that's the spin under style, okay? So the first video was the basic application. The second one is if you put the foot, just swing it across them. Now let's look at another application that is the thigh push or the leg push application right into what I call belly down or laying on your side Juji Gatame. This style of Juji Gatame was used quite a bit by the lady who's doing it in the video, Sandy Harrelson, in her competitive career, but also by my wife, Becky, the world Sambo champion, her sister Jan Trussell, world Sambo champion, Anne Maria DeMars, world judo champion. And I've seen other people do this style of push the leg and get them belly down into Juji Gatame. You'll see what we mean in a second here. It is exceedingly effective. So it's not really it's kind of a semi-fake to Tomoe-nage, but it looks enough like one, but you get them down on the belly. You'll see what Sandy does. She's the 2-minute, little under 3-minute video with Mike Pennington. So let's take a look at the thigh push or leg push, knee push, belly down Juji Gatame application. As you've seen in some of our other videos, transitions are essential in doing Juji Gatame. So in this case, from a standing to a ground fighting situation, transition from standing to ground. So we'll have Sandy Harrelson on the left and Mike on the right, Mike Pennington. Sandy got a lot of women with this in both judo and Sambo at the Judo Nationals and Sambo Nationals. And she got a lot of tap outs from this over the years in her career. So basically, in both judo and Sambo, I might add. So she's taken pretty much a standard lapel, right hand on the lapel, left hand on the sleeve grip, all right, with Mike. Now, what she's going to do, she's going to move over to her left quite a bit, and notice the angle of the body, her body to Mike's body, okay? Now, we worked on Tomoe-nage to Juji before and spin him right over, which is beautiful. A lot of our guys do this. Sandy was a specialist with this. We also had some other athletes do this quite well as well. So what she's going to do with her right foot, she's going to push on the inside of Mike's left thigh. And she's going to tumble him onto his face, and she's going to kick right over into Juji Gatame belly down. And notice, look at how she controls with her left foot, her shin on the back of Mike's head. Now, if she has to, she can put it under his head. That's cool too. But in this case, she doesn't really need to. So she's going to go ahead and do it on your own, Sandy. Just go ahead and push right down, kick right over, and there she did it, where she did it belly down like that. It's where her left leg is under his head. Okay, let's look one or two more times so everybody can get a good view of this. Notice her angle. She's over to Mike's right side extremely. She's not square with him. So the body position is really, really fundamental here. Okay, now what she does, as she pushes with her right foot, with her right hand, she's going to pull Mike down on his lapel. So go ahead and do that again, Sandy. Push, bam, she tumbles him. She kicks right over. Now when she finishes, she grabs that arm, traps it, and she really drives with her hip into the back of his arm, into his elbow. She can also catch there, and as she's doing that, that makes it hurt more. She pulls up with her left foot on his head. Okay, one more time. And Mike loves this, I know. Thanks a lot, Mike, for being patient. And you can hear in the background, they're training in the ring on the other side, so it's a regular night here at practice. So go ahead and do your thigh push setup, thigh push transition to Juji Gatame. Boom, there she goes, and finish out like that. Notice how she grabs, and she's got trapping that quite well. So that's the finish of it, and that is the a thigh push or leg kick transition to belly down Juji Gatame. There we have it. And a good way to learn that to start is from your buttocks and just push your foot on your, like in a guard or bottom newaza situation. Just start, rather than starting standing, just push on the foot from the bottom and roll them over. I'd also like to mention that there's another application of doing that that is done. I've seen it done somewhat in Sambo as well, where you, instead of pushing on the thigh or up above the knee at your opponent's leg, inside of the leg, you can also push lower down on the leg, down toward the ankle or lower part of the leg, and just push them and basically pop them down. And that works very well as in addition to this other thigh push. So anyway, that's another application of it. Still a transition from standing to the ground. It still looks kind of like Tomoe-nage, but it clearly is. You want to get them to the ground and do the belly down or side application of Juji Gatame. I first saw that. Honestly, I don't remember when I first saw that. It had to have been back in the 70s at some time. And it was probably in Sambo, because that looks like something that we would have done in those years doing in Sambo. But it certainly has been used in Judo quite a bit as well. Like I said, with Anne-Marie DeMars, my wife, and her sister, and a number of other, Sandy, a number of other really good athletes doing this style. So anyway, that is a very effective style. It may not look pretty, but it stretches their arm and gets the tap out, and that's what we're really looking for right now. You remember, the beauty is in the eye of the beholder, and if it doesn't work, it's not pretty. So there you go. These next two videos, we're going to look about the jumping or flying Juji Gatame, okay? And it's a spectacular thing, and it looks really cool, and it is cool, actually. It's a lot of fun to do. It's a great move to do, but it does take quite a bit of athletic ability. I think anything in any of these combat sports do, but this one certainly does, and it certainly takes a person willing to jump in the air and apply this. Real quick story before I show you these two videos about this very subject. At the Freestyle Judo Nationals one year, a young man did literally what you're going to be seeing here in a second, a jumping or flying Juji Gatame, rolled his opponent under completely, and he did it with such skill and such seamless effort, he threw him hard on his back for ippon. It was clearly all the elements of a throwing technique were there when he was doing this jumping up in the air, Juji Gatame. And I was a referee, and I called ippon. And the coach of the fellow who had it done to him was upset, and he said, well, he didn't stretch his arm. He didn't get the tap out. I said he didn't need to. He threw him flat on his back with control and force for ippon. So, and he, by the way, he did finish, and he had him ready to go for he had the arm straightened for the juji. I just called Ippon immediately. So, maybe I made a mistake. I don't think I did, because it was a really cool throw. But nonetheless, that kind of is a preface here, a setup for what you're going to see. This first one is pretty much how we approach the basic jumping Juji Gatame, as we call it. You'll see how to do it correctly and how not to do it correctly, so your opponent doesn't just slam you back on the mat. You'll see what Derek does here. And again, it's this video was done at John Saylor's training camp. And pretty much the same session we were doing the very first set of videos too. And Mike and Derek are coaching it. So here we go, jumping Juji Gatame, the basics. Here we go.
So when we're doing the Tomoe-nage to Juji, the idea is to get yourself safely onto the ground, shrimping in. And once you guys have gotten that idea, you've basically got the framework for doing a flying armbar. The only difference is you've got to be a little bit more aggressive with your hold on. You really got to think about the guy as your safety line. Okay, the last thing I want to do is jump up, not have a good grip on his arm and shoulder, fall down, and I fall 5 feet down and thump myself. Or even worse, he goes, side, wham. We've all seen the YouTube video. Okay, so we're going to keep a good grip on him. And how I know I can hit this one as a flying instead of a Tomoe-nage to Juji is if I can pull his head into my shoulder. Okay, if his head is there, he's toast. Okay, I know I can hit it. If he's out here, I still might try it, but I wouldn't recommend that until you get a good handle on it. All right, so if he's out here and you're even remotely worried, go Tomoe-nage to Juji until you feel like you can do that in your sleep. If you can do this, great, go for it. Okay. So the key here that we're going to do is as we come through, before we were taking that step to the side, we were throwing the foot up, and then we were rotating down. What I want to do now is curl under as tightly as you can. Okay? I'm not going to throw my leg up here into this armpit. I'm not going to throw this one up there or this one up there. It's the same exact motion I was doing before. This foot comes up here, and then as I rotate under, we transition to the ground. About halfway through, I kick my foot in front of his face. Okay? Keep a hold of everything until you flip him over. Alright? So I got to get control of him, step to the side. Okay? Over he goes. Okay? Look, just like the Tomoe-nage to Juji, right? The only difference is I was in midair when I got the foot over. Right? When I do Tomoe-nage to Juji, my back is on the ground already. Okay?
That's the big difference between the flying arm lock and Tomoe-nage to Juji.
Right.
We've spent a lot of time looking at this. We really have. And that's the big difference. You're really jumping up on him, and as you kick your leg over his head, you're spinning on him doing the Juji Gatame. You could also do the leg jam into the ribs, but this is pretty much basic way we can show you.
You can do it. How many of you have heard my back thump on the mat? Right? Okay, now, you'll hear it this time because there's going to be lots of space. Right? What happened? Okay? Too much space. Okay? That's why I say get the head on the shoulder. Boom, lock, lock. Step to the side. Over we go. Okay?
See, there's some key points there. They're really subtle. That's why he wants to park that guy's, Mike's, in this case, Mike, his partner. He's parking, he's anchoring that head, and he's using that head to keep himself up so he can jump under him, to spin under him, rather than spin there like Tomoe-nage and go under him. That's why it works.
Pull yourself up, swing under. Yes, you're jumping a little bit, but you're just as much collapsing in your grip so that you stay at that nice tight rotation. Okay? The more distance you have here, the less you're using him like a rope, the more you're going to thump when you hit. Okay? All right, let's try that.
Let's give it a try.
Oh, one more time?
One more time?
Right, one
okay.
more time.
Let me get it a little closer
Collapse
here.
him in, step to the side.
And there we go.
Good.
That's the standard version of the jumping Juji Gatame, flying Juji Gatame, call it what you wish. Okay, and you saw that Derek was very big on pointing out to spin under and not just jump under him where there's too much distance between you and your opponent. And if there's too much distance, he will slam you back down right on your back, and you're in trouble. So make sure you do that. When you do that jump, you spin under them, as we showed in that video. It is, believe me, it looks spectacular. It is spectacular, and it's one of those things that may not be your mainstay as your main move, but you can pull that out of your hat and pull it off with great success. So try that. That's the basic application of it. So this last video on the transition from standing to Juji Gatame is what I call a knee jam, or a belt line Juji Gatame, jumping Juji Gatame. I always call it the knee jam because you jam your knee and your foot, your bottom, your shin across his hip area and belt area, and you'll see what it does, what we do here. And I picked on Eric Weaver to do this because he's quite good at it. And so I had him video that, and Derek and Mike were doing it as well too. So anyway, it's just a little over, it's a minute 40 seconds, and it is the knee jam jumping Juji Gatame. So here we go.
The other way too, I find again you have to be a little bit more dynamic to do it that way. Okay?
Like Eric, you like that version. I know you do, yeah. Eric, let me put you on the spot. Can you work with one of the guys? Show your version where you jam the knee across the ribs, because that's a great variation too. That one there, uh-huh.
Here you go.
And that's and the reason you like that is because you have very long limbs. You have long legs, and it works for you. It works for you quite well.
Foundation from the first. If I showed that at the very beginning, I don't think I could.
So that's a great variation that has a great element of success as well. So it's kind of a knee jam flying Juji Gatame, isn't it? Okay. It's a great transition. There you go, like that. Very nice. Whoops, I got him off the mat a bit, but that's the idea.
I was on the mat.
So I was on the mat, but look how he puts his foot up across, swings under, and traps it. And he ends up in a nice classic position for Juji Gatame. Derek, can you do one for the camera as well? Because you do them quite well. You've done this in competition, actually. Spin under. And he does a tighter rounder. When I say tight, not in a bad way. It's a rounder, more compact roll when he finishes. And he'll come in and again, and see, he comes right in and catches the roll in that direction. So they're working on transitions to Juji, and it's kind of the cross leg across the hip, spin under, and you can see it. Now I must say that knee jam version is the first version I learned back probably around late 70s, early 80s. Okay, that was the application that I first learned, and then we adapted it. I thought, well, that's a little more difficult than doing just the jump under as we showed as the basic way. So we thought this through quite a bit. I think it's a really interesting move. It's certainly not a fundamental move. It's not a basic move, but it's one that takes a lot of work to get to this level to be able to do. But at the same time, it is foundationally solid. It's a solid, fundamentally sound move, based on good technical body mechanics and everything. But again, it's not a trick. People say, well, it's a trick move. It's not a trick. You're not resorting to a trick to do it. You just fooled it. You just fooled your opponent. And so if someone considers that to be a trick, so be it. I think it's just you outthought your opponent, and you beat him to the punch, and you got him down, you rolled him over and stretched his arm. So anyway, there you have it. It's a transition series from standing to ground, and there may be others, of course, but these are the ways that we practice them. And I think it's you have to be able to transition from standing to ground at some point in your career. So, and whatever sport it is, whatever fighting sport it is, this doing it this way that we showed here provides a good basis, a good progression of skill from very basic, like I showed in the first video, on up to the fifth one, where it's a little more complex movement. So anyway, it's kind of a methodology of how I teach transitions from standing to ground to end up in stretch your opponent's arm with Juji Gatame. So much for that. Okay, well, let's take I just want to discuss a little bit the benefits of training no gi with gi. Now remember, and I'm being very, shall we say, incorrect in my description. Whenever you say gi, you want to use the word judo gi, do gi, jiu-jitsu gi, aikido gi. The gi is always the second word, but it's in our nomenclature here in our martial arts practice, either gi or no gi. No gi means you're not wearing a jacket and belt and pants generally. It's a no gi. And you see a lot of no gi activity, and I'm a firm believer in cross training. I really like my guys to do no gi. And every so often we'll say, even at a judo practice, say, okay, guys, take off the jackets and belts. Let's go no gi tonight because let's really work on these points. And so I think the benefits of training no gi are just phenomenally good, and everybody should do them. Even if you're a straight judo guy, you don't do anything else but judo, train every so often in a no-gi situation. It will really enhance your judo training. And here why. I'm just going to throw out some reasons here, and there are probably plenty of others, but these just came to my head here before doing the show today. Usually if you could do a move no-gi, you can do it in a gi as well, okay? All the body parts are there, right? So, you can certainly do it, no gi. Doing it gi is even easier. And, I'm just looking at my notes here. Let me quick here. Okay, so if there's no jacket or belt to grab, let's say even you are in a fighting in a gi situation, and for whatever reason you missed your grip, you slipped your grip or whatever, and just don't have that good of a grip on them, but you do have control of the body, So it gives you a better angle, gives you better backup than totally relying on a jacket to do a movement with, or a belt to do movement with, or pants. So you're not relying on the opponent's garment, okay? And I think that's really good for like in a self-defense situation as well, because not everybody wears a judo gi standing around. Very few people walk around. I don't remember anybody walking around in a judo gi in the public, especially one who attacks you in a fight. He's wearing some kind of clothing. Now, you can grab his clothing, but what if he's just wearing a T-shirt? What if he's a tank top or something? So you have to really prepare for that as well. So no-gi situation, no-gi training really does prepare you for that. And I think also, I mentioned this slightly before, but you learn to appreciate body space and learn to control body space better when you do no-gi work. Often I've seen in judo, we get a little too careless, as it were, with just relying on the jackets too much, and we don't think about the body mechanics well enough. We tend to rush through with it. So if you train no-gi and you learn how to control your space between you and your opponent's hips and shoulders and everything else, you tend to appreciate that better doing no-gi. And I found that it's an accretion. It just happens. And even if you don't even mention it to your guys in training, if you're the coach, it develops that way. It's a natural development. So that you learn to appreciate body space quite a bit. And lastly, you learn to control your opponent's, like I call them control points. His elbow, his wrist or hands, his shoulders or his hips, knees, his waist, his head. Any body part, any appendage or part of the body that you can use for control, you do so. And I think if we just tend to just use the jacket too much, we don't think enough of controlling body parts or controlling their main points of control of the body, and we tend to just kind of let that slip by. By doing no-gi, you tend to appreciate that a whole lot better and have to use them. So it really does work, I think. And also, just as a side, if someone is no-gi, they're sweaty, in a good hard rolling around or a contest or whatever, in a no-gi competition, it's like submission, grappling, MMA, whatever, bodies get sweaty. So you have to have a better hook on them, have to better control. So you use your hands better, hand fighting and elbow fighting, using your whole body, but certainly using to tie up and control with your hands better in a no-gi situation than if you just rely on jackets all the time. Now, gripping is an essential part of judo and sambo. Those are sports, jacket grappling sports in and of themselves. But you tend to be able to do those, be able to grab that jacket better and control those body points, those control points like elbows, shoulders, that type of thing better if you do no-gi training. So those are some benefits, I think, of no-gi training. And I think it would be in everyone's best interest to cross train, to do other forms of grappling to, as an adjunct, as an assistance to your main form of grappling. I'm not saying you have to be a jack of all trades and master of none. We all have our preferences in what style or what type of grappling we like. Okay, and if it's judo, then do some sambo, do some no-gi grappling for sure. Do something else that will add to your base of knowledge. So anyway, that's the show today. Really, I wanted to spend some time parsing out jumping Juji Gatame and transitions to Juji Gatame, as well as discussion of the benefits of no-gi training. So I really appreciate you watching the show, and thanks for tuning in, and I will see you next time.